Hello again, and welcome back to Crayon Box Weekly. I'm your host, Carl, and I am joined by the lovely Vanessa,
Hello.
who I need to remind you again is my best friend in the entire world. Um, we are here today to continue to talk to you about the news that we find interesting or that has stuck out with us over the last week, and talk to you about why it matters in the average American jargon, because we tend to hear the people at the top talk loudly and talk with big words and talk over us as if we don't understand what they're saying or doing. With that being said, Vanessa, it was a really cold night last night.
So freezing, so cold. Ugh, Abram did not wanna go on the bus. Like, he was like, "Mom, can you drive me to the school bus?" I was like, "Absolutely not." And then he calls me at the school bus, like, the stop, and he's like, "I can't feel my legs." Like, he's like I'm like, "Abram, I know it's cold." He's like, "No, I literally can't feel my legs." I was like,
Meanwhile, I'm wandering around in shorts.
yeah, I'm like, baby, you're just gonna have to suck it up." Like, I mean, you're at least a bus is coming to pick you up." And he's like I was like, "You'll get warm on the bus." He's like, "You promise?" Wha Kid, I had to walk to school, like, in the snow in Ohio, like, "You'll be
Well,
fine."
here it comes. I walked to school
Stop,
in the
stop.
snow barefoot, both ways uphill.
Uphill, yeah. That oh, he says that, he's like, "I know, mom, this is what" I'm like, "That's not what I said." I'm like, "Stop it." It's ridiculous. It's like talking to my kid.
I love it. It's great. Um, so, without further ado, I guess we should just jump into the news stories
Yes, let's
of
jump
the
into it.
week.
You
I'll
go
let you go
first.
first.
No, 'cause I only have 1. You go first.
You only have one, so you want me to go first?
Yeah. You better not
Okay.
take mine.
That means I get to take yours if it's the one that I think it is. But I'll start with the one that I know that it isn't. Texas passed a new law. It's titled Texas SB 8, and it is known better as the Texas Women's Privacy Act. And basically, what this act does is it requires political subdivisions and state agencies to designate multiple occupancy private spaces for use by individuals of one sex.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So basically, what they're saying is that if there is a bathroom facility,
Mhm.
it has to be designated as male or female. Like, we're already doing that. Um,
Yeah, because I don't understand. Because what if, like, if you're designated places, what if you're, like, at a bar? Like, is there gonna be like, "Oh, hey, the girls can be on this side, the guys can be on that side?"
well, no, they're talking specifically with regards to private multiple occupancy spaces. So that means like bathrooms. I haven't seen anything that says that they're going to force designation of the family restrooms where it's for a family to go into and use.
Yeah.
I haven't seen whether or not that's going to be a forced conversion into a specific gender. But overall, what this is doing is it's just basically saying the same thing that we already have laws that say, which is you can't use the bathroom of the opposite sex.
Gotcha.
Right. Now, the important thing here is that this is specifically targeting transgender individuals. So if you were born a male, but you transitioned to a female, you have to go into the restroom of the gender that you were assigned at birth, which means that
How are they
even
gonna
if
know?
you've even if you've transitioned, I'm getting to that,
Okay.
even if you've transitioned and you look like a female, you still have to use the male restroom, which is going to create more havoc and problems. But the violations result in civil penalties that include fines of $25,000 for the first violation,
Goes up after the lunch, sure.
and it goes up by 100,000 to 125,000 for every subsequent violation.
Well, like, okay, here's the thing. Who if you look like a female and like, whether I mean, there's a lot of females out there that are very manly looking, but they are not. So, like, what are you gonna do? Be like, "Hey, show me your genitals so I know what you got between your legs?" Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, who's questioning these people? Are you gonna have to
So
flip your ID
in
to go in the bathroom now?
in Texas, the law is that your driver's license, your state ID, has to match the gender that you were given at birth. in the United States, because the United States now has a policy that there are only two genders and that transgenderism is not a thing, your passport will only allow you to get your gender at birth. All of this to say that it's they don't have to check genitals so much as they have to check IDs. And the reason that I clued in on that statement from you, Vanessa, is because um, as part of a a trial process, state Texas troopers have been posted outside of women's restrooms inside of the state House of Representatives and state government buildings, and they are checking IDs of everyone who enters a female restroom to ensure that they are of the correct gender to enter.
Do they not have crime down there? Like, is there not something better to do with their time than check IDs to go to the bathroom? I mean, look, as long as you wash your hands, who cares what bathroom you're using? Like, oh, it's
Yep.
frustrating. That's
Yeah. So this is just one of those examples, right? Like you and Avery talked last year around this time, ironically, um, and you discussed the whole bathroom issue prior to all of these anti-transgender laws getting passed. And so this is just an example of where or of the direction that the country is headed, especially in those regions that are anti-transgender. They're actively engaged in trying to make life as hard as possible for transgender members of society because they see them as deviants or miscreants or not human. So what you're going to wind up seeing is that a lot of these folks are not even going to leave their homes because they don't really have a safe space to go to the bathroom, much less the ability to go out without being harassed.
so I guess I mean, I see everything from a medical perspective anyway. So it's like it is a mental illness, I mean, it's categorized in the DMS-5 still as a mental illness. Um, and I mean, I don't criticize anybody for having, whatever they have. I mean, I'm not going to talk down on or treat anybody different because they have post traumatic stress disorder or, schizophrenia or whatever it is. But we don't provide support like we do for like depression. And I'm not saying there's a lot of support out there, but it seems to get talked about more now than when like I was a child. So I think that they're taking something that was, I mean, this has been going on. This isn't a new disorder. It's, this is something they've had for around for a long time. So to me, it's just like, it's a bathroom. Like, for fuck's sake. Like, they're not going in there to be a predator. They're not going in there to do anything like that. They just want to be considered the same. So what it comes down to is like, who cares? Who cares? I mean, do I think the whole, people like I identify as a cat or I'm a furry or whatever that is, like, don't understand it. Probably never will. I think it's weird, but that's my opinion. But I don't want to walk into a bathroom and see a cat box and someone using a cat box because they identify as a cat. Like, to me, I'm like, do I have to have a cat box in the bathroom for an adult?
Right. But see, here's the thing, right? And this is where like you and I will disagree. I understand that you're in the medical field. I get that in the DMS-5 that the the condition known as gender dysphoria is identified as a mental disorder. However, what I will say here is that there's a huge difference and a massive difference between um, the false narratives about the prevalence or even existence of people that use cat litter boxes because they identify as cats. Um, and the equating of that with people who are born in a situation where they feel and they know that they're who they are does not align with the body that they have, right? And before I met Avery, I really didn't understand it. I talked to Avery, I became friends with Avery, and I'm really upset that like Avery's not with us anymore, because of the fact that there are times like this one where I would love to have the ability to communicate with Avery.
Right, and have
Um,
his perspective on it, because I mean, it's firsthand affecting him.
right. Um, so like, and that's not to say there was a falling out. It's just that Avery's taking care of things that I don't want to drag him back into this.
Right.
Um, so what I'll say is here's the sitch, right? Like the treatment, like, and this is one of those thoughts that I had in my head. Even if it is a mental disorder, the treatment for gender dysphoria includes gender affirming care,
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
right? The treatment for transgenderism includes transitioning. It includes the affirming care that is needed in order to align the physical with the mental.
Right, right.
Um, and I used to talk about it like software and hardware, right? Like women have Macintosh software where men have PC software, and the two softwares are not the same, but they can work similarly in different pieces of hardware. Where like Windows can operate pretty good in a Mac hardware, and Mac can operate pretty good in a Windows hardware. But there's going to be issues where there's connections that just aren't
Right,
lining up,
right,
right?
absolutely.
So same process with transgender people, and that's it's oversimplifying the process, right?
Right, right, right.
And so what I think that is going on, and what I think the major problem is that we keep doing this thing where we are telling people that transgender people are bad, transgender people are mentally broken, and that the the answer, the treatment for transgender people is bad. Therefore, we shouldn't treat them. We should just make sure that they are pushed, cast out from society, and treated like garbage and animals and less than. And that's the wrong approach
Well,
to this
100%.
entire.
100%. I think
It's yeah.
Texas is like that law is just so biased and so one-sided, and it's like, w why did this become such a big deal? Like, why did it go from they've, been using the bathrooms for, I don't know, like, let's just I'm throwing a number out there, I have no idea, for 40 years. And within the last, I would say probably about the last, what, 5 to 10 years, it really became this huge ordeal. And it's like, why? Who sat there and said, "You know what? That's not okay." Like, wasn't bothering us before. They didn't do anything before. Like, they weren't doing all these things that you think that they're doing. So leave them the fuck alone. Like, seriously, leave them the fuck alone. They're not hurting anybody. They're not causing anything. So
So to answer your question about the why, and I would imagine that the reason why it's become such a big deal is because after Don't Ask, Don't Tell went away, after we got the Defense of Marriage Act repealed, after it became um, a, a, a process by which the United States recognized same-sex marriage across the board in the same way that it recognized interracial marriage, right? I think that what happened is we were starting to move towards normalizing and understanding transgender Americans in society and saying, "Hey, these are people too." And when that happened, the far right conservative side zeroed in on this and found the one thing that they could turn, and that was creating misinformation about how men were posing as women to go into women's locker rooms and women's bathrooms to prey on women. Um, and they completely blow over the fact that the majority, and like we could go through, and I haven't done all of the research, but every single time I see a story this year about anyone who has committed SA, they are MAGA men.
they're straight white men. I swear.
And it's like, the, your problem is not the trans folks. Your problem is not the gay folks. Your problem is the priest sitting in a Catholic church diddling boys. The problem
I love
is
the word diddling. I'm so sorry.
the problem is P Diddy, right?
Right.
And his stupid baby oil
With
parties,
GHB and stuff. Yeah, like
right? Like
ridiculous.
those are the problems, but we want to attack a small community that makes up less than 5% of the American population.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. And I feel really, really sorry for anybody who lives in Texas. Texas is a very, very conservative state, and it's almost like they just don't want to accept any change whatsoever. Anything new, they're like, oh, nope, nope, we need to make a law against this. But
Mhm.
it's like, shouldn't you be more worried about your border protection, drug control, stuff like that, than what bathroom individuals are using? Because at the end of the day, someone using a bathroom is not a big deal as them bringing in drugs through our borders, and everything like that. So I'm so sorry that Texas is such a shit state like that, and they
Yeah, and I mean, to go back to states' rights, right? That Texas can't, by the Constitution, the border is the responsibility of the federal government,
well,
not Texas. Now, we saw Texas try to take over the border under Biden, but overall, it is a federal responsibility. So I guess now that the Trump administration is in there with DHS and military personnel, um,
they have nothing else to do with their time
they've
than
got nothing better to do than stand outside bathrooms, right?
Jesus, that's ridiculous. But this is a perfect time to bring up my article. Because my article actually has to do with drugs. In fact, today, about I'd say 3 hours ago, Trump signed an executive order actually designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And I love this. Like, I really, truly love this. I grew up right outside of Akron, Ohio. We used to call it Crackrin. Um, but I can't tell you how many people I've went to school with that have died of a fentanyl overdose. Um, so I mean, there's probably I can count at least 7, 8 people that I know of. Um, and people that are still addicted to, heroin and different things like that. So to me, this hits home. My uncle, my cousin, everything like that. So to me, I'm loving this. I love this executive order. I think it's probably one of the ones that I will stand 100% behind him as this is, because the fact of the matter is, like, literally, like, two what was it? I think it's like 2, let me get it correct so that I'm not mispronouncing it or misquoting. Yeah, 2 milligrams of fentanyl, which is completely almost undetectable, is equivalent to 10 to 15 grains of table salt. So it's huge. And, a little bit can kill somebody
Hmm.
instantly. And it's not so much, I'm not saying that people that have drug disorders and have this addiction problem, that they are not at fault for continuing their drug use, because it's a choice. And I understand this 100%. It is a choice. But an addiction is an addiction, and it is a mental illness. And addicts, they can't seem to say no without help. So if it's got to come back to the drug dealers, the drug pushers, the cartel, everything like that, that are pulling this fentanyl in, because if I can sell, you know, 5 table salt grams, and it's equivalent to that of, the 2 milligrams of a fentanyl, I can push more product cheaper and get a better effect. However, they're not telling people that this is what it is, and so they're killing off all these addicts. And I always look at it as like, this is gonna sound really fucked up, and I don't mean for it to, but if you look at it as a business, like any business, why do you want to kill off your demand? They are demanding this. Why would you kill it off? Why wouldn't you tell them, hey, this has got fentanyl in it. Let me, you might want to use the smaller doses. Why would you want to kill them off? You're going to lose your product. So that's just, I know that sounds really fucked up and I don't mean it to, but yeah, this executive order, I agree with it 100%. Have you read about it?
So funny story. This was my second article. So yes, I did read it, and while I can support your line in the sand, right? I'm with you. I look, and I guess maybe this is my TDS, right? Um, I look at it from the perspective of what are the ulterior motives here, right? And so when I look at it, I examine things like the fact that we are bombing fishing vessels that are coming out of Venezuela, and we are dealing. Pete Hegseth is in right now in chaos because of the fact that he's been accused of giving an order that violates both national and international maritime law. Um, so I look at those things, and then you look at the fact that Donald Trump has said multiple times that he is planning to conduct air attacks on ground locations inside of the country of Venezuela. So you add that to the fact to these pieces, right? Now, Venezuela, to be clear, does not produce our imported fentanyl, right? If memory serves me, that comes from Colombia, and I could be wrong here. Um, if I am, I'll put it in the show notes.
He might.
But I'm very probably wrong. But it doesn't come from Venezuela, right? So I look at these things from the perspective of why are we designating it now as a weapon of mass destruction? What powers does that give to the president to respond in kind, right? And so when I look at this with what have we done in the past when we identified a country of having weapons of mass destruction, what happened in the past? Well, we invaded a fucking country, right? And we went in and we owned that country. So now my question is, we're designating it as a weapon of mass destruction. Donald Trump is highlighting Venezuela, who doesn't provide us with fentanyl, as a leading provider of fentanyl, which is not true. And he's actively targeting the boats and calling for the targeting of land targets on inside of that country. So what this tells me is that he is using this as another step to build himself a reason to go into the nation of Venezuela. So it's just another justification. I'm not saying that the reasoning behind it of stopping the fentanyl overdoses is not good, but like, because that we need to stop this shit,
Yeah, it's
right?
terrible.
But at the same time, unilateral military action against a sovereign nation is wrong. I mean, even I at the time we went into Iraq, I thought it was a good thing. But the more I was there, like the more times I deployed to that country, the more I developed my understanding as an intel specialist, the more I realized that we were there for the wrong reasons. But even then, right, that was a coalition of countries, right? Venezuela is not. Venezuela, we're trying to do this without anyone else with us.
Right, right. It's almost like we're trying to start a war that's not necessarily needed. I think that, like, I don't know. I think, I mean, yeah, I see there could be ulterior motives towards it. I totally get that. I just think that, like, from medical standpoint again, um, I have seen more people that, like, medical records, charts, different things like that of these, addicts that are having to come in because they're addicted to heroin, and they have gotten endocarditis. Well, now, most of the time, and I really don't like to, like, profile, but most of the time, a person that is an addict, normally has a mental illness to go with it. with having a certain mental illness, they get Social Security. If you're on Social Security for your mental illness, you also on Medicare or Medicaid. So now you would need a, valve replacement because of endocarditis. So now the taxpayers are paying for this addict who has been shooting up and has an infection. We're paying for open heart surgery for them. Um, so I think cracking down on the drugs and everything and labeling it as a weapon of mass destruction, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think that it will help decrease people getting adverse reactions to or adverse effects of it. Um, Less deaths, and I don't know. There's so many different ways that it can go because if there's less people getting it, there's less people dying. There's less people getting sick. There's less adverse effects because God forbid that somebody does get fentanyl and they take a lethal overdose of it, but they are brought back, but now they don't have function. They're on a vent 24/7. They're alive, but they're not really able to handle themselves. So now this person is now on life support for the rest of their life. And that's another thing that's, happening out there. So, I'm not saying that they need to die. I don't want anybody to take that away of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we're spending, and I don't know how much we spend each year on drug overdoses and everything like that, or drug related medical conditions. So I think that cracking down on something as dangerous as fentanyl, I think is well needed in this country.
Agreed. But again, I look at the ulterior motives as well. So,
Right.
is it a needed step? Yeah, I agree with you. It is. We need to do something about it. Um, do I trust this administration?
No.
I don't even
Yeah.
trust them as far as I could throw them.
Right. I'm gonna
So
stand behind it,
the
Carl.
like the reasons behind the executive order, like those are the things that I struggle with. And I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe this will turn out good. But what I really hate to say is in 90 days when we are in a direct conflict with Venezuela, I really don't want to be like, I told you so. Um, because that
We may come up on here in, in the next 3 months and be like, "Well, you know what? When Carl was talking back then," so it could go, and it couldn't go, I mean, I just think that, you read into it, whereas I take it as face value, as what it is, and you know what? Your perspective is great as well because I would have never reading it today, and looking at it and being like, "Wow, I really like that," just because, I mean, like I said, I mean, I've lost my uncle, I've lost my cousin, I've lost so many people that I considered really friends that to drug overdoses. And they didn't have the means to get out of Ohio, like they didn't join the military. That's I knew where like I just kept seeing around me everybody the way the life was going around me and I was like I don't want this for my life. I need to get out of here. And so I left and I joined the military and hindsight best decision I ever made except for my marriages. Those were not the best decisions I've ever made. But
yeah, but that wasn't the Navy's fault.
yeah, it
Um,
was. They were both corpsmen. You kidding me? Both of them. Corpsmen are walking
and
red flags for me.
to your experience, I mean, your experience is important, right? Like you have to have this experience to have. We all both have different experiences. Mine, I I know people like in this vague nebulous world that have succumbed to addictions. Um, I also know other people who have experimented with these but haven't found an addiction. Um, and I know people that have gone through the process of being addicted and have come out on the other side better for it. And it wasn't until just recently that a family member of mine revealed that they had partaken in drugs. And so, like, that was the first time that it really hit home that drugs are a problem. Because for me, uh, you know, I went through the DARE course, and it was dare to say no, right? And drug abuse.
Drug abuse, resistant education, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, drug abuse resistance education, right? And yep, yep, that's the one with Scruff McDog or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I went through those courses, and despite the fact that they were a Ponzi scheme for police officers, it's always maintained the same status with me, right? Just say no, just say no, just say no. To the point where even when I um, went to a hospital and they gave me morphine, and I loved the feeling, right? I looked at the doctor and I said, never again. Like, put that in my medical note. You will never give me morphine again. And so, like, they don't do that anymore. Um, so for me, I view it from the point of view of, like, if you try it and you know that it's bad for you and you know that you're probably going to get hooked on it, why would you continue doing it? Um,
And I can see that perspective where you say that, and the thing is that nine I don't know the percentage, I'm just gonna say, like, but there's a high percentage of people that are addicted to opioids out there, that the reason they're addicted to opioids is because they had surgery, and they got put on
mhm,
opioids, and they couldn't get off of them. I mean, it is a thing. The problem is that your body has opioid receptors, and so when your body is used to taking them, your body craves them. And then on top of it, your body will come up and tell you that you have pain. Even though you don't have pain, it will phantom make pain because it's craving you to get more of these opioids. So it's a direct reflection of that. So people get on these and they feel great. They're like, wow, I don't hurt. I don't have any of this pain. So they take, they start out, let's say, 5 milligrams. So they're on 5 milligrams because they have chronic pain. So that 5 milligrams, after about, we'll say, 6 months, now they're still feeling pain, but they're on the same that they weren't feeling pain before. So now their doctor has to up their dosage and then that creates a whole cycle. Well, then it turns out that, I can't afford it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to steal. I'm going to do whatever because my body and my mind and everything is craving this. And I'm in so much pain because my body is making me feel pain so that I can get this medication. The sad part is for them to get off of this, they're put on methadone. They're put on Suboxone. Most of the people, I have yet to see somebody that has a heroin addiction that's been put on Suboxone or methadone in my own personal life that has been able to get off of it and be 100% clean. They are either for the rest of their lives and have been on these, the Suboxone and the methadone to get off of the heroin. And it's like, what's the step from there? What step do they take? And they don't. They pretty much just stay on the same level. And to me, it's like this is so the addicts that it's not most of the time people think, "Oh, it's because they weren't educated. They didn't know they didn't know to say no." It's no, they had surgery. They were doing something to fix their body. They got poured on morphine. They felt great on morphine. They were, discharged from the hospital and they got on Percocet or Vicodin or whatever it may be, OxyContin. And then they're like, "Hey, I really like the way this feels. This is great for me." And for some reason, they can't get off of it. It's a huge epidemic, and it's awful, and it's to watch somebody struggle with it is absolutely horrible, and to physically, like, be around somebody who has done heroin, it is I would never, like, seeing them be on heroin was something that I would never, ever wanna see. It was sad. And, you see them on TikTok all the time. So, to me, it's just never something I ever wanna experience.
Yeah.
So that
And my you can tell like in the way that I approach the issue that my privilege is showing, right? And I say my privilege because I'm privileged in the fact that I have not had to experience that.
yeah,
Um, and so for everyone out there that's listening that has had to experience it, don't think that I am someone who is like cold hearted. Like if you're addicted to drugs, then you should be left out. I don't believe that. I fully support helping people. However, I, I just look at certain actions from this administration and previous administrations. Like no one's actively doing anything to really fix it, right? So I take this executive order with a grain of salt because everyone talks a big game, but no one ever really makes any progress. I mean, how many fentanyl czars have there been? I mean, Mike Pence was in charge of the fentanyl process
yeah,
during Trump 1.0, and look what progress we made there.
right. Yeah,
Um,
that's what
so,
I'm hoping that maybe it'll just open people's eyes and they would stop pushing it and selling it and everything, like, I know when I had my surgery, the first thing she's like, "After your surgery, we're gonna give you fentanyl," and I looked at her and I said, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not." And she was like, "Well it's we administer it, and it's a hospital," but I'm like, "I don't care. I don't want it." Like, I can't take morphine. Morphine apparently relaxes me to the point where I don't breathe and, like, I stop breathing, so I can't take morphine. Yeah, that's a thing. So, the only thing that I've ever after having my surgery, they gave me Dilaudid, which let me just tell you, that stuff was super strong. I don't I thought I was awake the entire time, I was not. I would talk and fall asleep and wake up and continue with the conversation, and I'd been sleeping for an hour. No idea what was going on. So, there's gotta be it's strong medication, so, if you need it, it should only be ever administered by a doctor and only and ever administered if you need surgery or are recovering from surgery in the hospital. I
mhm,
don't think you should ever be discharged home on opioids. I don't. I'm an
yeah.
advocate.
I mean, I've had when I had my surgery on my feet and making me ineligible for Feet Finder. Um,
No, you can do it.
you think like with my scars? I don't know.
There's people into it.
And then there's that scar from the knife. Remember when I dropped that knife in my foot? Oh
You
yeah, it's
almost
turned
like
into a nice scar.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, so when I got that, they gave me Vicodin, or maybe it was Tylenol 3.
That's codeine. Yeah. It's still
Yeah, it was probably Tylenol 3.
yeah.
It's still an opiate,
Yeah.
but I guess it's a watered down version.
It's a very low dosage of it, it's codeine. So yeah, it's still an opioid, I think it's an opioid brother, but yeah, I mean, it still does the same. If you take too much of it, you're gonna do I know when I was in the military, I got pneumonia and I had a cough, and I'll tell you what, never have I ever gotten prescribed this outside of the military, but they gave me cough syrup with codeine, and I was like,
Oh, I remember that too.
"Right?"
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, outside in the civilian world, they never prescribed me that, so I'm like, "Why in the military are you giving us cough syrup with codeine? Like, why?" Like
Guinea pigs, man. It's the same reason we got the monkeypox vaccine.
yeah, I remember that. I remember that just the tunnel of vaccinations that you had to go through, and they'd
Well,
shoot you
yeah.
with the guns.
Hmm.
I'm like,
Needle
"Oh."
here, needle here, needle here.
Yeah, you're like
Yep.
you're like, "Pow, pow, pow." I'm like, "Oh."
Hmm.
You're like, "Bend over." I'm like, "I'm allergic to penicillin."
It was 20. Funny story. 20 years ago. Um, this month, 21 years ago this month,
You're
I
old.
was going through that tunnel and get to the end, and there's a female corpsman, and she says, "Drop your trousers, bend over." And I, along with the rest of the recruits that went through this process, we all would say, "Yes, sir," because we're around men.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, really? Yes, sir." Right. And then slammed that thing home and it hurt so bad.
That is the one thing I can tell you, I'm so happy I was allergic to penicillin and could not get that shot, because at the end of the day, like, um, they gave me the like, I think it was doxycycline is what they gave me, to take for, what do they call it? The recruit flu or whatever, 'cause everybody ended up
Hmm.
getting sick there. But I remember the next morning, everybody who got it and they were on the top bunk and they jumped down, they instantly fell to their knees, like, because it just, like, and they had this big old knot in their butt. I'm like, "This is hilarious."
Hmm. Good old peanut butter shot.
Yep.
Um, well, I think that's it for this week.
So
I really do, Vanessa. Thank you for taking my second story. It kind of helped us through the process,
yeah.
and it was interesting for both of us to have that differing of view. I think that that was important as well. Um, Next week will be our final episode of this year and this season, so we'll be stepping back into season three in January. But look for us next week. And then, as we've discussed in previous episodes, you can also find me on me personally. It's great on a couple other shows that I've done. The most recent one was on the Lean to the Left podcast with Bob Gaddy. Great guy, super smart, super intelligent individual, and it was great sitting down and having a conversation with him. Um, the name of that episode is something to the effect of why a Marine dumped Trump's GOP. Um, so, you know, I'll take what I can get from it. But yeah, give that a listen. I'll throw those in the show notes as well, and then the listening too. That was a great conversation as well. Turns out he is of the MAGA persuasion, and I didn't know this, but it's good for us to have those conversations and keep going. So, if you are of the MAGA persuasion and you somehow found yourself listening to this episode, please, by all means, shoot us a message at contact@crayonboxpolitics.com, or even go to the website and shoot us a message from there at the contacts page, and we will bring you on the show and we'll have a conversation. You just give us the topic. Um, and yeah, I would love, Vanessa, if you have any contacts or you know anyone, um, maybe you could reach out and get us someone to talk about the drug epidemic in the United States and how policies have failed since we started the war on drugs. I think that'd be a good one too.
Yeah, I 100%, because I feel like, you know, if you didn't grow up around it, you're like, "What epidemic?" If you're not seeing it in your hometown, you don't see it as an epidemic. So, eh, being in some place like a larger city, New York, Akron's not so big, but I mean, it's pretty big, in Ohio and
Hmm.
Cleveland and stuff like that, like Chicago. I mean, the drugs are so rampant out there and they're readily available. I mean, even LA, so I think, having that perspective is definitely really important.
Absolutely. Well, until next week, I'm Carl.
I'm Vanessa.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and always color outside the political lines.